Tonight on the Late Debate, the King of the North comes south. Labour's only leadership contender is days away from Downing Street, promising more control for London.
So that London can do more for itself and remain the world's greatest capital city.
But what happens to Hammersmith Bridge as Andy Burnham raids the transport budget to pay for defence? And will Sadiq Khan go for a record-breaking fourth run as mayor? Hello and welcome to the Late Debate. Barring any late surprises, Andy Burnham could move into number 10 in less than 2 weeks. The former mayor of Greater Manchester hasn't wasted time telling us what he plans to do as Prime Minister. He said London had its problems, but could get more political control.
And yes, more powers for London too, over education and housing, so that London can do more for itself and remain the world's greatest capital city.
Well, joining me now to discuss that are my guests this week. Dawn Butler is the Labour MP for Brent East. Neil Garrett is a Conservative member on the London Assembly. And Sarah Olney represents Richmond Park for the Liberal Democrats. Welcome, all of you. Dawn, first of all, will Andy Burnham be a better Prime Minister for London than Sir Keir Starmer?
Well, I think I wouldn't put it in those terms, Simon. That's not very kind. But I feel that we need a change of energy and optimism and hope.
Sounds like you think the answer is yes.
And he's bringing that to the table. And if he becomes Prime Minister, I think he will do a phenomenal job.
For London?
For London, yes, absolutely. I mean, Just yesterday, we had Sadiq Khan had his summer reception, which I hosted in Parliament for him. And I had the King of the North on one side and the King of the South on the other side. And I almost need to lift both their hands up and feel like, yes, we're going to do this together. But, you know, Sadiq welcomes what Andy's saying in regards to devolution for London, more powers to London. Let's not forget, when London grows, the rest of the country grows. So I think it's a win-win all round.
Neil, when Sadiq Khan was standing for re-election, he talked grandly about the wind of a Labour government in the sails of a Labour mayor delivering for London. You'd argue that that pretty quickly hit the rocks.
There's been no sign of that, has there? I mean, I think I have several concerns about all of this, really. One, I don't know what he's promised. I don't know whether he's promising it to the GLA or to the boroughs. I don't know whether Andy has even thought about the difference between those two. We haven't heard one single example of a specific power that I've heard that is coming to London. It just seems a lot of vibes. And my worry is this is effectively where Labour were 2 years ago. You know, we had this idea that suddenly Labour get into government and all the problems are solved and it's all sort of vibes and positivity. And you remember the mean vase strategy where there was nothing in it, but you just carry it carefully across the floor. It just seems to be more of the same. And
Do you like the direction of travel? Do you like...
What direction? Where are we going?
Do you like the idea that there will be more powers given to London? I mean, stuff like the overseas levy,
so more taxes.
Things like that. Well,
I'm not really a fan of
overseas,
so London's
levy,
hospitality
would that be good for London or not?
London's hospitality trade, which is obviously biggest in the country, it's a very important part of our economy, is already flat on its back with Labour's employer national insurance, minimum wage increases, business rates increases, inflation, and then your plan is to put another tax on top. I mean, I don't welcome that.
Well, actually, I think it's rather more complex than that.
So let's bring Sarah in here, because Andy Burnham obviously has represented the North as Mayor of Greater Manchester. Isn't it about time the rest of the country got a bit more attention over London?
Well, I think you need to remember that, of course, London's got the highest levels of homelessness and of child poverty than anywhere else in the country. And I think there's been a bit too much rhetoric from some Labour politicians around how it's only the North or the Midlands that are really, really struggling. And obviously they have their problems too, and it's very welcome that other parts of the country are, get an opportunity to develop their economies. But what I really worry about some of Andy Burnham's rhetoric is it's all about the North, it's all about Manchester. And I really worry that, London's specific problems are going to get overlooked.
I don't think he's given them any thought at all.
Should
Well,
we
I-
worry about this idea of a number
Nobody
10
listened
in
to
the
the
north,
speech,
or is
obviously.
it just a gimmick?
It's a stupid gimmick. I mean, I wrote an article about this last week, right? It's so many problems. They're actually, if you remember the thick of it, they wrote a whole plot around the fact that the leader, the Prime Minister, was on a train and couldn't do anything, couldn't make a phone call, couldn't have a meeting. It isn't going to work. It needs to be a secure building. Well, how many years is that going to take to build? 6 is what I heard. Maybe it'll be 4, but that'll be well past the next election. How is it even going to work for the Prime Minister to spend like half the week in London and a half in Manchester?
It needs to
It's
be
just
much more than just physical location.
Yeah.
It needs to be thinking specifically about the issues that are, related to each area. But specifically in London, our issues are around policing, they're around transport, they're around housing. They're specific to London. They're quite different. But the idea that London is sort of paved with gold and you can harvest some of that, additional wealth and then distribute it
And none
out
of that
to
is-
I think
the
the
none of that
rest
is
of the
reality is-
country.
by having a new
isn't-
office in Manchester.
But the
I don't-
reality is nobody's saying that London is a city that's paved with gold. Often London is a tale of two cities. But we do need and as we devolve power downwards, we have councillors, we need people to be able to understand the individualism of different areas and then build on that and say, right, this is what we need. We need more policing, or we need more violent reduction
This
units.
is the
or
other,
we
agree with
let me
need-
that.
say, this is
I
the other
agree with
part
that.
of this Andy Burnham plan, such as it is, that I think is going to come unstuck. Because if you do devolution properly, and I'm in favour of doing it properly, if you do it properly, you have different powers, different people making different decisions in different places, so you get different outcomes. Well, that runs flat into his commitment to have more equality. Because if you're going to have more equality, that means it's more the same. And he's already upset about
that's
the
not
north
what it. No, that's
and
not
the
what
south.
it means, Neil. You've
Well, it has
put
to
too
mean
many
that.
things. No. You've put too many things
Well,
in your
if
building block,
different
and it's
people-
fallen apart.
If different people in different places make different decisions, which is the whole point of devolution, you're going to get different outcomes. And then,
But it depends what you need for the outcome. So some areas you might need more policing, some areas you might have enough policing, and you might need to invest in something else.
But the point
So
about
you
having...
don't. It may be different things that you're investing in.
The point
But
about
if the
having
outcome,
different
if
powers
the outcome
at
is
different
people
levels...
have better standard of living, then that's a good thing. If the outcome is that people have better standard of transport, then that's a good
So
thing.
let Sarah come
But
in here.
the point about having different powers at different levels is really, really important. So, for example, you were talking about the overnight levy. If that could be devolved down to boroughs and they could make a decision by, borough licensing committees or whatever, and they can decide for themselves whether that's an appropriate thing in their
Sadiq is
area.
currently trying to take
could
those
I
powers
just
off
finish?
boroughs.
You were talking, obviously, Hammersmith Bridge. So the
We'll
London...
come to that in a moment,
Yeah,
yeah.
but I mean, that's an example of where you need to have a citywide strategy for your river crossings. And that's not what we've got. And that's the biggest problem.
Isn't one of the big problems going to be that devolution is always going to lead to a bust-up between the boroughs and the mayor in London?
yes, and that's. I think Andy seems to have no awareness of this tension between boroughs. I mean, Sarah, in your answer just now, you were talking about licensing powers in boroughs. Sadiq wants to take them away from boroughs and centralise them with the mayor. You're talking about other powers being centralised with the mayor. I think people in London have more of an understanding of the fact that you've got this both a tension and different things going on at different levels, the GLA and the borough. I've not heard a single word from Andy when he talks about London, whether he understands there are 32 boroughs and the mayor and the city. of
Dawn,
London.
briefly, before we move on, does Andy Burnham get London's problems?
Yeah, but you have to understand, he's just set out his stall. He's not yet
no
the
goods on
leader
the
of the
stall.
party. He's not yet the Prime Minister. So we do have
bit
to
of
give
wait
him,
and see
We do
needed.
have to give him time to develop. But don't worry, we will be there making sure it's done in the right way.
OK, because one of the problems the new Prime Minister will have is to balance the books to plug a £5 billion gap in the defence budget. The money could come at the expense of big transport projects. We already know there's no more money for Hammersmith Bridge. And campaigners are urging the government to look again at the Lower Thames crossing.
Per mile, Lower Thames Crossing is actually more expensive than HS2.
We're building the Lower Thames Crossing because of the congestion at Dartford and 55 million users getting delayed every year. HS2 is a very different project, and they just really can't be compared.
Well, before we talk about the Lower Thames crossing, Sarah, Hammersmith Bridge is in your constituency. What on earth is going on?
Well, I had a letter from the Transport Minister a few months ago saying there's a structures fund. Hammersmith Bridge would be an excellent candidate. We really hope that we can fund the repairs out of the structures fund. But at the same time, they've been saying to Hammersmith and Fulham Council, who are responsible for the bridge, that it's not a suitable way of funding the bridge. And Hammersmith and Fulham Council are taking the decision that they're not going to apply to the structures fund for the money to repair Hammersmith Bridge. So that leaves my residents in Barnes, but not just them, many, many people right across southwest London short of a functional river crossing. And it's not just about motor cars, it's buses, it's ambulances, it's delivery drivers, it's, you know, elderly people and disabled people trying to get to hospital. This is what I'm saying, that, you know, the decision about not fixing Hammersmith Bridge has been left to Hammersmith and Fulham Council. The mayor's not taking responsibility, the government's not taking responsibility, but it's not just about people who live in Hammersmith and Fulham, it affects many, many more people.
You were hoping to ask the Prime Minister, the Deputy Prime Minister, rather, at Prime Minister's questions about Hammersmith Bridge today, but ran out of time. Presumably
Yes.
you will be pressing Andy Burnham.
I absolutely will, yes.
Yeah.
As soon as he's you know, available to answer questions from MPs, I will absolutely be pressing him on this point, because we've waited 7 years now, and we keep getting told that, you know, progress is being made, and there is no progress, and it's letting my residents down. But as I say, it much more than that. It's about our strategic approach to river crossings right across London.
Neil, for a large part of that 7 years, there was a Conservative government.
Yes. I mean, my view has been all along that the only body that can fundamentally get this sorted out is the government. I mean, Hammersmith and Fulham Council, with the best will in the world, just simply doesn't have the resources to replace hundreds of millions of pounds of bridge. And actually, neither does TfL, really. It has to be the government. It should have been the previous government. It should be this government. Either the government pays for it to be most of the cost of replacing it, or repairing it, I should say, or it will just sit there the way that it is. And the worry, of course, is that it still has these damaged cast iron fixings on the corners. It could still deteriorate from where it is now. It just needs to be sorted, and it needs to be the government that does it.
Dawn, should we worry in London that these big transport projects, not just Hammersmith Bridge, but Bakerloo Line Extension, West London Orbital, Crossrail too, remember that, these will just fall by the wayside because the Prime Minister doesn't have the money. He's got to spend it on defence.
I mean, I fought very hard for the Bakerloo Line Extension and an upgrade to the tubes, having been stuck on one a bit today. So it's really important to me. There are these big infrastructure projects. They have been delayed for a number of years. The last government sort of sat on their hands for much of this. And so it has to be looked at in the round. It was a responsibility of the council. Obviously, the council cannot afford to fix Hammersmith Bridge. So then we have to look at creatively of what can be done. And that takes people sitting down collectively, having a look at it and say, right, how can we do this? And what's the best way to deliver this?
We did a big report at the Assembly, actually. It's an issue that I really care about, on capital projects, railways, bridges, tunnels, how we can get some of this built. We're really bad at it in this country. The single biggest thing, I think, where Sadiq has gone wrong is he's got this mindset that begging bowl politics. You ask the government for money, and if they don't give you the money, then you just blame them for it not happening. Part of the reason I started that piece of work under the previous government is I could see that that wasn't going to work. The only way that, whether it's the Bakerloo extension, the Thamesmead DLR extension, the West London Orbital, I mean, those are the three things that Sadiq asked for. He's got 0 out of 3 from this government, and it now seems obvious that he's not going to get
the extension of
He's got no money. The closest he's got is they've said, OK, we'll let you build it. They've given him so far £0 and 0 pence towards that. The only way you're going to get these things to work is actually if London finds a way to raise the money locally using land value, using capturing the land value, using fares. I mean, this is what
this brings us back to devolution.
Exactly, Simon.
So I was just about to say,
then that brings us back to devolution.
One of the powers the mayor should have is the ability to agree a transport works order. So there's one specific policy that I've got, which is one more than Andy Burnham has got.
Sarah, what's your answer to Hammersmith Bridge?
Well, I mean, Neil's right. The only people who can properly fund it are the government. And as I said, I was told that they had a solution on the table, that they thought this was going to work, but they've been separately advising Hammersmith and Fulham that it can't. So, you know, the Department for Transport needs to come forward with another solution. Or clarify whether its structures fund is appropriate for Hammersmith Bridge.
It seems to be a national embarrassment if you read about it in newspapers abroad.
Yes, no, I know. It's a national embarrassment. And honestly, if Andy Burnham wants to come in and wants a symbol of how he's going to deliver and how things are going to be different, he could do a lot worse than getting people round the table, as you've suggested, Dawn, and finding a way to get that bridge fixed. Because it was the one thing that Starmer's government has failed to do, the Tory government has failed to do. If Andy Burnham really wants to show that he's serious about positive change, fix Hammersmith
The Lower
Bridge.
Thames crossing, much needed if you're one of those motorists stuck on the Dartford crossing, is going to cost £11 billion. That's supposed to be funded mostly by private finance. that hasn't been sorted out yet. Are you worried that could be a casualty of these cuts to Department of Transport budgets?
It looks like none of these things are going to happen. I mean, that's the blunt truth. And anybody who's tried to go across Dartford recently, as I did a week ago, it clearly needs a relief road. It clearly needs the Lower Thames Crossing built. I'm in favour of building that and much else besides. We have to find ways to build it locally, but that, I think, is national infrastructure. It's part of the National Highways Network. I think the government probably does just have to pay for that one.
How soon into Andy Burnham's tenure at Number 10 will it be before you're knocking on his door making the case for all these?
Oh, by, if he gets in at 12, probably 10 past 12.
I look forward to hearing his reply.
When's his first budget? That'll be when all of this gets real, is when he has a budget.
OK, anyway, this time next year, we should have a good idea who are likely to be the main candidates in the 2028 Mayor of London election. Sadiq Khan, on a recent visit to Singapore and Tokyo, was being coy when I asked him if he would stand again, suggesting he'll announce his decision by next May. Do you want to do a fourth term, try for a fourth term, or will you be looking for some other opportunity?
I'll make a decision and an announcement in due course.
Dawn Butler would like to know now.
I think there's at least 24 people who want to be the Mayor of London, as it should be.
So, Dawn, are you still hoping to be the next Mayor of London?
Yeah, it'll be an amazing opportunity and thing to do, to be the Mayor of London. I mean, Sadiq's made history. He's the only mayor to have done 3 terms, and he's been a fantastic mayor for our city. But yeah, I'm on his job.
Come on, level with us. Whereabouts is your campaign? Has he hinted to you that he might think about giving up?
You
seem to be lost for words.
I have lost for words there a little bit. I mean, the thing is this. As I say, Sadiq's been a fantastic mayor for London. He's done so much for the city and so much for our air quality, so much in regards to crime and poverty. So he's done a lot. There's a lot more to do. Obviously, we are very, very good friends. We are close friends. He's one of my best friends. So we talk all the time.
So he has told you what his plans are, but you're just not telling us?
He hasn't told me what his plans are, actually, but I've told him what my plans are.
I think he wants a job at the UN, being like the British Al Gore or somebody flying around the world telling people about climate change.
It might sound
He's done a great job with air quality in London, 200 years ahead of its time, cleaning up our air. That's a good thing, right?
It might sound a bit odd talking about an election that's under 2 years away, but all 3 parties have got to choose their candidates in the next 12 months. By the party conferences of next year, you'll have to have your candidates in place. Can I just ask you briefly, Neil, Dawn Butler, your worst nightmare as Mayor of London? Or?
I think Dawn, I don't want to be rude to somebody sitting next to me, but I think I'd be quite pleased if the Labour Party selected Dawn as their candidate.
Oh, go on, tell us more.
I think, I mean, my biggest criticism of Sadiq is that it's the best. I mean, being like Mayor of London is by a long way the best job in politics. And I have to sit there in London Assembly and watch him be bored with it, disengage with it, and not actually get to grips with London's real problems. This whole business this week about Soho, NIMBYs. I mean, what he's saying is just complete nonsense. There is a real problem there that he could be getting to grips with, and he's just talking a lot of Tommy rot. That's the frustration I have, I think, watching him muck up the best job in politics.
Sarah, it's important that Londoners get to choose from good candidates. How hard is it for a party like yours, which has never won the mayoralty, to find the right person?
I don't think it'll be hard. I think we've got a range of people who are interested and who could do a really, really good job. And, you know, we'll be running a really strong campaign. Obviously, we're interested in GLA members and the list. And, you know, we'll want, you know, to use the opportunity to raise the profile of Lib Dems right across London. But, you know, it's still a really interesting job to do. I mean, London is such a great city. I would agree with Neil in terms of, you know, being the Mayor of London is a really interesting and exciting job. It gives you opportunities you simply don't get elsewhere in politics. And I'm not going to sit here and pretend that our prospects are you know, really... likely for us to win, but to actually be in that race, to be challenging the people who are going for it, to be part of that debate is something that's really exciting.
Are you worried as a Labour Party member about the threat from the Greens in the mayoral election?
No, I think that what you have to do is set out your stall. You have to say who you are as a Labour Party, as a Labour government, and what you want to do. And when you have power, what do you want to do with that power? What do you want to achieve with that power? How you want to see our wonderful city grow and change and have everybody have a buy-in to that. And that's what I think is like special about being Mayor.
You're not daunted by the Greens' performance in the local elections?
No, not at all.
I think they should be.
Neil, Reform UK have already chosen their candidate. They are the only party so far, rather a long way ahead to choose candidate Layla Cunningham. Do the Conservatives fear Reform UK, or were you heartened by the results of those local elections?
I don't think so. No, I don't think we fear Layla. Certainly, I knew her reasonably well. She was involved in London as a Conservative. Yes, yeah, exactly. Yeah, I don't think we fear her as a candidate. What the local results showed, I think, is that this idea that Reform are going to run rampant across London or indeed across anywhere, it just isn't really true. I think Londoners aren't interested in what Reform UK are selling, and I think that's even more true now we have this ridiculous by-election down in Clacton with Binface versus Farage. I think the whole thing is becoming a circus, and I think the wheels are coming off Farage's clown car. And the idea that Londoners are going to elect a Reform mayor, I think that's not something that keeps me awake at night.
Sarah, you said that some interesting people might be prepared to put themselves forward for the Lib Dems candidature. Any names you want to share with us, or anyone you'd like to see?
I can't share any names. It's only people sort of talking about it at this stage. But I'm really hoping we'll get a good, strong, interesting candidate who's able to make a really, really good case for the Lib Dems right across London.
What about the Conservatives? Kemi Badenoch says she's actively hunting for your candidate. Have you got a preferred person? James Cleverly, Penny Mordaunt?
I think James, well, perhaps I should say, I did back James for the leadership. I think he's a very strong communicator, would be an excellent mayor for London. He hasn't declared that he would like to be mayor of London. I think in the Conservative Party, we're big fans of competition. So what I'm hoping is we get lots of good candidates come forward, and then whoever is chosen will be stronger for having been tested against other strong candidates.
Dawn, is it right that you've got the backing of the GMB union?
It's not public knowledge.
But is it
It's not the same as not being
Just
true,
say
is
yes,
it?
Dawn. I think you should just say yes.
That was my political response to that.
So they've fallen out with you.
No, not at all.
You sound like you're getting campaign ready.
Of course. I mean, in politics, you have to plan and you have to prepare. And that is fundamental if you're serious about winning. So, yes, I am planning and preparing. But I've just been reminded about something in Clacton. And there is this thing about Farage.
Be brief, because we've only got 5 seconds.
It's quite interesting. Farage is the stuff found at the bottom of your bin.
Okay.
The liquid found at the bottom of your bin.
On that unseemly note, that's all we've got time for, I'm afraid. Thank you very much to my guests tonight, Dawn Butler, Neil Garrett and Sarah Olney. We're back after Parliament takes its summer break. Good night and thank you for watching.